Okay, a few people have asked about how to convert from a cut path back to a closed path drawing. So the conversion itself is not really a thing. You just have to manually do it. Um, this is what you start with when you have not yet created a cut path. And then when you create cut paths, it looks like this. Um, I'm going to say that most of you, if not all of you, will be using lead-ins when you have a cut path conversion, and that's that small bit where it starts not next to your good material and then comes either inward or outward to the cut. And most of you are using a kerf offset. So if you look at the drawing, you'll see that it is offset to the outside so that when it cuts, it will be left with the actual dimension that we drew. So with that in mind, let's let's say that we had deleted this and saved over the top of it, and now all we have left is this blue cut path drawing. But we need it to be, we want to put a different name in there, so we need it back. We need our drawing back. So the only way to fix the lead-ins is to trim them off, get rid of them, edit them, make them go away. Because typically, if you have a gap at the end of the zoom way in, if you have a gap at the end of the loop set, then you're going to be able to see that there is a gap in there. I'm going to turn that wide cut path view off so it's a little easier to see. So the easiest way to get rid of that lead-in is to use to select the path, and when you hit E for edit, it always starts at the very first node of the path, which in the case of a cut path is the lead-in. So that gives us something to zoom into. I'm going to use F1 and zoom in. And now I'm editing this node. And so I want to join it back to this endpoint mouse. I can hit E or endpoint snap and snap it right to that endpoint, and then right click or hit escape. So now I've done away with the lead in, and I can zoom back out. So now I need to do that for any closed paths I've got. I'm going to put an inside path too, just so you can see the conversion happen, but it's really not important. So that would be an open path that you were cutting. So I'll go back in. I'm going to clean up all of these endpoints real quick by using E for edit with it selected, E endpoint, click on it, or left click and then right click. And you can do that zoomed out with pretty good success. Okay, so now all our endpoints are moved so that they're joined up, but of course, even though they're joined together, this is still a cut path, and so we can't treat it like a normal closed path. So we're going to select everything, and we're going to use either Control X or Explode, and it's going to ask if we want to, and yes we do. Okay, that opens everything out to open paths. So now this is a sum of lines and arcs. And so then we're just going to select everything again and hit J or link, and we're going to have our closed paths back. And as you can see, our open path went right back to being just a regular wide open path, even though it was a cut path. So get rid of that. Now, this is back to closed paths, but this is not back to our original drawing, because we originally created a cut path and it offset half the distance of the kerf, which I had the kerf set at 0.06, so it offset 0.03. So to make this back into the original drawing, or as close as we're going to be able to get to it, we need to use the offset tool on each path, when we can offset 0.03, half the distance of our kerf. If you don't know what it was, then you may have to use a dimension. If it's a dimension part, you could scale it and say this was supposed to be 2 inches wide. You could select it all and scale it. but we know what the kerf was, so I'm going to offset that. On outside paths, the perimeter cut, we know that it was offset to the outside, so I'm going to click once inside and bring that back in. And then on our inside paths, we offset to the inside, and we did that so that it would cut those inside holes right, so we need to offset them back to the outside a little. You're just going to have to do that to each individual one, not losing your place, as I do regularly. Okay. Now this is really as close as we can get back to it. You're going to notice that in the tight corners we have some distortion because the torch couldn't get in there for that cut, and so in the cut path it deleted a crossover and adjusted it a little bit. So let's just bring back the original and we'll compare it. Okay. So you see we're close. We're close enough to reuse this to make something else. If we make a new cut path using this path, it will not be bad. So that will that'll certainly get what we want done. And now then, if I wanted to put a different name in this, you really just have to correct lines where you've put stuff together. And I know this probably wasn't part of the original question, but I'll just throw it in here. If it's a straight line or an arc or whatever you need to do, you know, to get this back like the original piece so that we could do a different drawing, you just use your snaps, whether they be node points or endpoints or on path, whatever you need to do to get a line drawn so you can trim it back out of the way. And if we pull in this piece right here, get it down here, then we can see that is almost identical. There's a few little places where our new path differs from the old, but it's very, very, very small differences. So you would be able to use that and start again. So I hope that helps.